Good evening. Welcome to the Traffic Safety Commission meeting. I'm Senior Engineer Brett Music, the liaison to the Traffic Safety Commission. I'll be conducting the meeting to begin with till we get through the election of chair and vice chair for this commission. Our previous chair and vice chair, their terms were up at the end of the year. And so you get me to start the meeting and we'll go forward here. We'll start with the roll call.
Roger Coleman. Here. Russell Johnson.
Here.
Hunter Anderson.
Here.
Natasha Lipke.
Here.
Stephen Hargrove. James Keary. Andrew Miller.
Here.
Wiley O'Neill. Toby Leinhart.
Okay, now if we'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll move on to introductions. We do have 7 new commissioners out of our 9. So welcome all and thank you for your time and joining the commission. So I'll start with, again, like I'm Senior Engineer Brett Music. I'm in the Development Engineering Department and my primary role is with land use development, but I'm also tasked with as the city engineer's designee to serve as the secretary of the commission to the Traffic Safety Commission. So I'm here to help with the commission and move through its purposes and duties. And later we have a presentation and talk on that scenario. And then I'll go around the room. Toby, I'm going to start with you there.
I'm Toby Lindhart. I'm studying civil engineering at George Fox, and I'm hoping to become an urban planner, to sort of like design or redesign city streets.
Next.
Hey everyone, my name is Wiley O'Neill. I'm excited to be a part of this board. I am an active transportation coordinator by trade. I love to walk and bike around my community, and so I'm just looking forward to kind of helping out in an expertise that I feel confident doing so.
Hi, my name's Andrew Miller. I'm a commercial driver. I have been for the past 15 years. I hope that my experience in traffic safety and traffic safety courses can help my community, and I'm looking forward to serving Newburgh.
I'm Russell Johnson. This is my second year on the committee. I'm a resident of Newburgh for about 40 years. And welcome to all new members.
I'm Roger Coleman, retired electrical engineer. Been a resident of Newburgh for 15 years, member of this commission for 2 years, I believe. And I'm also on the Governor's Transportation Safety Committee. So.
Hi, my name's Hunter Anderson. I make wine for a living locally, but I've lived downtown for about 10 years now and walk pretty much everywhere that I can. And yeah, I'm excited to be on this board.
Hi, everybody. I'm Steve Hardgrove. I am a retired court reporter and a part-time caregiver for a gentleman who turns out to be a past member of this commission. I've lived in Newburgh for 20 years and I have zero expertise.
Hello, everyone. I'm James Carey. I've lived in Newburgh now for 20 years. I'm a manager in pharmaceutical research. Joined the commission just to try to give back to my community. And like many people here, I walk the streets and I drive the streets. And I've taught both my sons to drive around Newburgh. So I'm looking forward to helping out.
All right. Well, thank you and welcome all again.
Oh, sorry, I'm online.
Oh, actually, sorry, Natasha.
No
I'll
worries.
I'll get used to the online attendance as well. So
We're all learning together. Hi, I'm Natasha Lipke. I have lived in Newburgh for about a decade, and I work at the Chehalem Cultural Center for about 6 years now. And also, I have no real experience in traffic safety other than trying to be a safe driver. And I'm also excited to serve my community in this way. And I look forward to working with all y'all. Thank you.
all right. And welcome to all. Appreciate you.
Staff too.
And we'll go ahead and through the rest of introductions of staff. Alan?
Hi, my name's Alan McKeel. I'm the GIS analyst with the city of Newburgh, and I help Brett with the some of the data collection and analysis of certain requests that the Traffic Safety Commission has. Thanks. Thank you, Stephen. GIS stands for Geospatial Information Systems.
Thanks.
And Rachel?
I always simplify Alan's job too much, but I always say if you remember the old computer game SimCity and you could put an overlay on it to see where resources hit, that's kind of what he does. He creates all these wonderful overlays and data-rich maps for us to help us know what everything is. And that is a simplification, but I like thinking of it that way. Hope that helps out. I'm Rachel Thomas. I'm the city recorder here. So I help get all of you guys on these boards and committees. I'm the person who vets the applications and gets you all set up. And you heard from our office several times while we were getting it all through the council processes. I manage public records, elections, public meetings, all sorts of things. So I'll be here tonight to teach you guys a little bit about what ways that you can interact on this committee and the new committee rules that have been passed. So we'll be talking about that later. But I'm also a go-to person if you have questions about how things are run, if you need help with things, and if you're still not in your emails, my apologies, please make sure to let me know because we're gonna have our IT team get on that right away. And my apologies for the delays on that. So. And then we have a special guest tonight. This is Mr. Joel, is it Osh, Joel? Is Ozzy, okay. Joel was our mayor today, mayor for the day, and he toured the entire city, said we did pretty well and that we all deserved raises, right? Yeah, okay. But he is very interested in traffic safety and keeping our city safe. So I invited him to come join us for this meeting tonight. Thank you, Joel.
All right, well, now we'll move on to the election of chair and vice chair. And I guess I'll start with just kind of a discussion or allow a discussion. If there's anybody have an interest in running for the chair and vice chair positions to state so, and then we'll go for nominations from there and then the votes. If that.
Britt, can you outline what the expectations of the positions are?
Yeah, so kind of the expectation with the Traffic Safety Commission itself is I'll go into greater detail in the presentation later, but the purpose and duties are basically aligned with reviewing traffic safety related issues that come before them. There's some authority relation issues within that. Some of it is what they call general decisions, or the code describes that, and then limited decisions. The general decisions are the things that affect a large group of our larger area or citywide or policy scenarios it can be. And then the limited decisions are more localized, and they're things that generally fall within the purview of the city engineer and the engineering staff to review and present those things in the traffic safety. There's an active issues, all you've seen in your agendas that are there. And then that's kind of the role, the general role that we have. And then the role of the chair is to kind of oversee the meetings, preside at the meetings, run things along in that regard, and also has input on the agenda that we have. And then the vice chair is kind of that secondary role to be there to fill in with the chair if they're absent. So that kind of covers a great generalized overview there, Roger. That hopefully helps. And so then kind of going back to if there's anyone that has a discussion component describing whether you have an interest in being chair or not to lead to nominations. Or if anybody has someone to nominate, they can move that forward as well.
I guess I'd be willing to nominate myself for the chair position. Again, I've been here with a little history, so I think that's helpful, but willing to, if there's somebody else interested in doing it, I'd be happy to. They haven't had that role too, so.
I will second that nomination.
Okay. A motion and a second for a nominee for chair. We can go on to a vote for that. So all in favor, saying aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Same sign? Not hearing any, we'll go with that was passed unanimously. So Roger, welcome to being the chair for the Traffic Safety Commission. Now for a vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Russell for vice chair.
Seconded.
We have a first and a second. Russell, are you consenting to being nominated?
Yes, I'll do that.
Okay, and we'll move forward with the vote on that then. All in favor, aye, saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Same sign. Hearing none, passed unanimously. Welcome, Russell, as vice chair. So now I will turn the meeting over to our new chair, Roger Coleman, to
Great.
preside over the remainder of the meeting. And
Thanks, Brett. Guess we'll go on down the agenda, public comments. Is this the point where,
we have received none, so we have no public comments this evening.
okay, does the today's mayor wanted to make a comment or?
You want to tell them anything tonight? On the microphone? I'm right up here. And you can tell them a couple things on the microphone. All right, tell them any ideas you have for traffic safety.
All right. Let me see. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Got it?
Huh. We want the city to be better next year. Texting while driving is dangerous. Dangerous. And smoking in the car is dangerous. Drinking is bad for your health. Declare no texting and driving, no smoking in cars, and no drinking alcohol in the city.
Great, thank you very much for your comments. I appreciate that.
Welcome.
Any questions? Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Let's go on to the next item, the consent calendar. And so, Brett, the only thing on the consent calendar then are the meeting dates and the minutes. Okay. I just want to make a comment. I noticed that the October 12th meeting is a scheduled date, and it's also Columbus Day, but talking to Brett, that's not a city holiday, recognized holiday, so that's not a conflict with the city, but I didn't know if that's a conflict with any of the commission members.
I don't expect it to be.
Okay.
So if you see the green light, it means that too many mics are
Oh.
on, so I might have to mute one or turn me off.
How many can be on at a time? But just one, two, okay, right? None for me, no.
Okay. Okay, and then the minutes, as I understand, we, got a number of new members here, but I don't know whether you had a chance to read the minutes, but Russell, if you had a chance to read the minutes. So do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Motion to approve?
Second?
I second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Oppose? Great, thank you. Staff report. I don't see our police.
Yes, Sergeant Hagan was out sick today, so he will not be joining us this evening.
Was there any kind of report from?
He did not give me any indication of a specific report of information. He did convey that if there were any questions or information asked of that to pass it back to him, and he will follow up on that. So
I just had a question. I know that City of Newburgh recently implemented their online traffic citation process. And I'd be interested to hear how that's going.
I'm not aware of any information. Can you, Rachel? That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll see. There we go. We'll get the mics working. So we've implemented a few things. So the red light cameras at Villa and 99 will be going online this month for testing, for a short testing period, and then they'll go live soon. So that will be happening. And then we've implemented online payments for our traffic citations. So that means instead of having to call or come into this building to pay tickets, folks can log in online and just pay it online. Should make things go more efficiently and reduce staff time needed to do that. And we know that's a big deal for a lot of folks to have to come in here or wait on the phone until they can get a hold of someone. So that should take a lot of, it seems to be going well so far. That's been going on for about a week and a half now. So pretty new. And then go for it.
Permission to ask a question?
You bet, Chase.
I guess I have two. For the traffic light camera, I know the previous ones didn't go well. Maybe this was discussed in other meetings, but what was done to prevent it happening again?
Yeah, happy to talk about that. The previous ones didn't go well because their software did not talk to our software. And despite many attempts to make it work, it did not. So before this contract was signed, we made them prove a successful software implementation and prove that it would actually work and that all of their stuff was compliant with our systems. So it has worked well so far. And now the equipment's actually being installed. I've seen them out there a few mornings on my way into work. So I'm feeling much more confident about this round. And just so that you know, and so it's out there again, the city spent no money on that first round that went south.
Yeah.
The agreement is a portion of the money that the revenue that comes in from tickets. So it didn't cost us a dime. So.
And then my other question is actually for the police
Yeah.
officer that wasn't able to make it and hopefully
Mhm.
feels better soon. Just came out of the holiday season. How did the whole DUI thing work out?
Yeah, we get those reports for city council. As far as I know, it wasn't too bad of a season. I haven't seen the December numbers yet though. So they're usually a couple months behind. If you keep an eye on city council, they'll have those DUI numbers at the beginning of the council meetings. I believe December's will be in February. So the first or second meeting in February. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Roger, permission to ask a question? Rachel, after watching or reviewing the last meeting, there was question along what direction the cameras are capturing image. Is it just along 99 or is it along Villa as well? If you can speak to it.
They are capturing in two different directions. So they're capturing, and let's see if I can remember. On 99, I believe they're capturing both speed and red light, and I believe it's just red light violations turning from 219 on to 99. So it's not capturing on Villa Road, but it is going to capture red light violations in the intersection, and it's going to capture speed.
Any other questions?
Actually, I have one.
Yes.
Sure. If they work out, is there plans to extend these? Again, it might be in the maintenance, but I don't know, to other intersections.
Yeah, there's some discussion about that. Part of that is if it's on ODOT roads, like Highway 99, then we have to have their permission to do it. There's only certain intersections they will give us permits to do it at. We were given a permit to put one at Main and 99. However, the permit for doing it and the actual infrastructure being available on their equipment for us to actually do the system are two different things, and the infrastructure did not work. So we're unable to implement at that location, though we do have permission. But we've also talked about some city managed roads, so that might be an option in the future. So
Thank you.
we'll see what happens.
We all know that 99 is two streets in that part of town. I just wondered how that plays into the decision about the signal.
Yeah, I believe at that section that it was only one side, and my memory is saying Main and Hancock, but I can't tell you for sure. I'd have to look at that. Do you remember, Brett?
I was trying to think the same thing and I do not recall which.
Actually,
which
I
one.
think it's coming into town, so that would be Main and First.
Be Main and First.
That would
for-
make
for
sense. There we
into
go.
town.
Yes.
Sorry, Rachel, just another question. This may have been covered in a previous meeting, but just to clarify tonight, since you mentioned it's 99 ODOT road as well, is revenue generated from those cameras going to be shared between, or is it just going back to the city? Beautiful.
So the way that works, and since we have a lot of questions, I'll give you a little broader overview. The ODOT does not share any of the revenue, it goes straight to the cities. We have a right to do that. But the way we do it is photos and video are taken when there's a violation or a potential violation. That goes to an officer here who actually, well, it goes to the company who runs the cameras first. They run it, and if it's completely invalid, they don't even send it to us, save us some time. Then everything that they've validated, they send to us, and an officer reviews everything. We don't just let a computer decide. An officer actually looks at it. Then it's sent to the person with a violation. And the revenue is split between the company that runs our systems and the city of Newburgh. It's pretty.
Any other questions? Thank you. Public outreach.
Yeah, just I can give a little update on that. Basically in the packet, the public information officer had given me information, the postings that she has done recently. She's done a few more in the last few days. She gave me information on that'll show up in the next meeting's packet as far as those go. And again, she has asked for any input on what direction or things that the Traffic Safety Commission has to help promote or to be promoted out onto social media and on our website and other things there. So she's open to receiving input for things to go there. She does pick up things that are broadcast from ODOT that puts these things out is what's her primary resource for that and moves that forward. So
It would be nice to have information from our police department on problems that we are seeing. So I guess I would like to pass that on to make sure.
I can
if-
pass that on to you're kind of just looking for general information as far as traffic related issues.
Well,
that they're seeing
what
type
kind of problems are we having in our city? And are there ways to provide better education to, that might relieve some of those problems? Thank you. But it's important we have information from the police department.
I will pass that along.
Okay. Engineering.
Yeah, so within your packet is the traffic safety active issues log. That's a log that's been created. It's a code requirement to kind of keep track of decisions that are made. So what we do is we track, and this is a living document that has evolved over time and it's grown based on input from the Traffic Safety Commission over time. And there's a lot of information that's conveyed within this. We are keeping track of things that we are currently assigning to Keller Associates, which is our city engineer is provided by a consultant company, and they have staff that are experienced with transportation engineering. So that's who we utilize to kind of look at these traffic safety issues as they come up. We give them a work plan and work that out, move that forward. And so what we've kind of structured in here is there's a number of issues that they are working on. And as we kind of provided information within there, there's the criteria used to kind of establish priorities is kind of looking at the length of time the issue's been on the log, and then how often the issue or the concern shows up. And then we use some engineering and a judgment to apply kind of a time period of what might be an imminent concern versus something that's maybe more of a long-term component there. So there's a balancing of resources available, costs, and elements to kind of move things forward there. Just going to give you a little background on that. And then we keep track of the things that have come in new that have been noted as received. Maybe there's some initial investigation that's starting to happen. There's three components of traffic safety in the education realm: enforcement and engineering. And a lot of times some of the education component is PD's involved with that for educational outreach things that they have, but also even the issuance of warnings at times, or even just a presence component, things can be there. Then there's an enforcement issue that things will pass on to PD as well. And if the things fall into those two realms, we'll generally kind of move those forward what we can, document the issue and concerns that we've got substantiated if we can, and then it'll go into what we will term as a no further action. So essentially close out what my role is with that or anything that would get assigned to Keller, and it moves forward. It's still on the log. It's a record of an issue that has occurred. It can help guide for trends and things to see what has occurred, what's been looked at in the past, and we'll move forward. And so at the first of the year, there's a number of items that I've identified as that have been no further action will be archived. So those will be moving off into the archived folder that we have. Then the ones that are just received, we'll gather some additional information and start to incorporate those into the Keller work plan as appropriate there. Just any kind of general questions related to the issues log as a whole?
Brett, can you explain the color coding?
Yeah, so the color coding is completely arbitrary. It's just kind of trying to be able to differentiate. So the pink color there is really those ones that are kind of been assigned to Keller, or that they're ongoing. Maybe they're things our GIS analyst helps with collecting we have some equipment to pick up speed and traffic data. So we gather some information there. So where we're actively trying to do something related to what's going on there is what the pink color represents. The whiter things where they've just initially come in. And if there's something that's obvious that it's an enforcement issue, we'll move that forward to PD to also look into it as well. And then there may be some overlap between some of the things. So there might be something that's an enforcement to look at, especially kind of concerns with speeding. There's a couple of things we approach with that. One is that we work to kind of collect data. We also ask the officers to kind of take a look at the site, the area in question, to see if they can substantiate speeding concerns and things that are going on. And then the white is just the ones that are just blank. Those are the first initial ones. And then the blue is the ones that are going into the no further action scenario.
Question? Yes.
But on some of these issues, like on the first page, you got 12, 24, 24, 12, 24, 17, and 25, 25, 3. They're all basically the same, are they not? Is there a way to merge them so we don't have three issues?
That's what I'm kind of working on doing. I'm starting previously we had indicated the issues as they come in, and that's how they kind of get logged. We are working through the backlog of elements that we have. We've really reduced those from when I started with this commission 2 years ago. There was a large backlog, and with the assistance of Keller coming on board, we're helping to move those forward even more. So yeah, I'm kind of toying with the idea of versus each issue as it comes in, creating a new number, especially if they're the same area, and figuring out a way to kind of consolidate them more in
Yeah.
that regard to kind of get that direction. That's the direction I'm looking to head.
Great, thanks.
May I ask? Yes. Is there any, is this list in like rank order or in order of importance or order of risk?
It's basically created, initially, it's created in the order of how things come in.
Okay,
Then it's broken down into, sorted into a scenario. What are the things that we've assigned to Keller or that we have an ongoing investigation going on through the engineering staff or other engineering staff or GIS? Then it's the things that are new that have come in that we haven't received. And then it's the ones that are no further action that are moving forward. We're getting ready to archive. That's kind of the order there is.
okay, but within each section, do you prioritize?
And then they're really not necessarily priorities. The Keller work plan ones that are in the pink, those are ordered in item numbers.
Okay,
And we started out structuring that so that the priority was more or less how the numbering goes.
yeah,
But in working with Keller and looking at things, and that's just an initial estimation of their priorities and what we might work at. I gave that to them as a list of things to start to work out what would be the costs and time frames associated with doing those. And we recognize rather than doing all of the really high intensity things all at once, but sometimes that's the priorities here. It looks like it might go that way, is try to knock off some of the easier ones, the less involved ones, less costly ones, as far as to get to a resolution, because many of the things are not something that are simple. And so it's a matter of the study going into or identify and confirm what are the issues and things there. So there's not a defined, the priority is always going to be kind of evolving. What we do watch for is things where if there's something that comes in as a concern and we go and look at it, I'll usually do a windshield survey of one of the things that come in, and I'll take lunchtime and drive around and go look at the thing. And if I'm seeing something that's obvious that there's an engineering issue to be resolved, I'll get with the city engineer and we'll try to move something forward very quickly. We've had some elements there where there have been some concerns with, just as an example, some parking too close to signs in some inner area, in areas a couple of years ago. There was actually a report of someone being hit in a crosswalk, but it wasn't clear when we did the investigation. It wasn't clear if they were hit or nearly or something. It was a little unclear what was going on. But I was able to go out and look at the site and work with our maintenance, and there had been curb painting that had faded. So people were parking where they shouldn't be within the 20 feet of the crosswalk, where there shouldn't be. So maintenance was able to, we worked to get maintenance to go out and get the signs out there and get in place. So we tried it when those things come in that are look like they're definitely something imminent. That's a possibility of a high risk. We move those forward as quickly as we can.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Russell, I think you had a question. Do you,
Did already.
oh. Any other questions? Okay. Good.
We were talking about things being imminent, and you said something about curb paint just now around the crosswalk. We have that all over in emergency zones in downtown on Main and First, specifically in front of the movie theater. Right. And there is completely faded yellow lines where people are constantly parking in an emergency zone. And if there is an actual emergency there where it's most likely to have an emergency, it's going to be an issue.
Yeah, and that's on 99 through what's ODOT jurisdiction, and that's what the ODOT's area for painting of those curbs or those elements is what we have there. But appreciate you bringing that up, and we'll see about conveying that onto ODOT as well.
Brett, do you have regular conversations with ODOT about these issues?
I do not have any kind of established set pattern with things. I have a couple of contacts I'll send information to. One of the things, and kind of backing up a little bit on all of the various information I've sent to you all is links with information, for a lot of links with information to look at. Amongst those are various ODOT resources and things. And one of the ones that I found to be fairly effective is the Ask ODOT website, where questions like what you just posed there can be posed to ODOT. They'll assign someone to kind of give an answer with that component of it. And I can pass that on to my contacts as well. But that's something that's open there for that. ODOT seems to be very responsive with that, to that platform, to getting answers back. It's not always an answer that it'll be addressed immediately, but it'll give an answer that they are aware of the situation and what steps that they take in for those such situations. Oh, absolutely. It's a website it's through ODOT's main website. It's Ask ODOT. If you Google Ask ODOT, it'll get you there. And then you just fill in the information and requests that they have there.
Yeah, you'll find on this board that we have a lot of issues that end up being ODOT issues, and getting visibility with them is always difficult. But Brett does a really good job of relaying it when he can, where he can, and when he can. And I think if you still put it on the issues list, right? If you think you see something, go ahead and put it on the issues list. It'll be marked as an ODOT thing, but it will at least have some visibility.
So that's a great comment. Just to kind of follow up with that, there are within the active issues log, we've kind of got all of the ones that are in ODOT are really in a situation where they're aware of the ones that we have. But as new ones come in, yeah, we'll be adding those into there if anything new comes in, and add that and convey that on. And July it was, I think ODOT came, we were able to give them to give a presentation where they talked through their process to evaluate items. And as they identified, compared to other parts of the city, Newburgh does not have the issues that they see elsewhere. So that's where the resources go to where the issues are the largest and where they see the greatest need. So we have that to contend with as well.
I guess I'm the one asking all the questions today. Two things. One, are they saying that because the other cities just have squeakier wheels? More people are complaining.
Not that I'm aware of. They actually have statistical information and things available. And again, within the links that I gave you, ODOT has a variety of websites. There's one in there it's a newer website they have. It's a crash data viewer that gives information that's it says on the website it's a website in progress. So it's a little clunky to utilize, but it does give you the ability to search for an area of interest anywhere within the state of what the crash data is. And it gives a variety of statistics, both for vehicle crashes, pedestrian involved, bicyclists involved. And if you go through and I encourage you all to go through and look at that information and do comparisons of Newburgh to other cities. And you'll see, and this is not just ODOT jurisdiction of these roadways. This is all roadways within the state show up within this crash data. And you'll see that Newburgh just doesn't have what other parts of the state has. So the information is able to be fact checked that, as they stated, Newburgh has fewer issues than they see in other parts of the state.
I believe Newburgh just recently entered into that crash data database for the state. They got a grant, and I think they got software and stuff to.
The software to
do
be
that, yeah.
into that piece of it there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, great. That's good to know.
Any other questions? I just want to note, Brett, I really think it's a great what you're doing with these active issues. I see we had 24 items were added, but you had 20 completed. So that's a good progress from where we were.
Progress. We're still a little bit backwards, but some of those items that are listed there are kind of, sometimes they're duplicates as type of things, as Russell had pointed out. So that's just kind of how we've tracked them there. So
But I'm glad to see the
that.
progress, because
Oh,
I
yeah,
feel
yeah,
like there was
definitely
a
compared to
number of
where-
years, nothing was happening. So I
yeah,
appreciate that.
appreciate the recognition of that. Absolutely. If there's no other questions, I'll just kind of touch base on we have the 3 locations that Keller is doing their current work at. And they've given me kind of target dates that they're looking to have some reports. That'll be kind of, usually what happens with these is they'll send a report to me. I look through it. I will have some questions or criticize them a little bit to kind of make certain everything's covered in what we have, and a little bit back and forth. But they're looking to have essentially all of these with the reports that will likely have information on where we're at with recommendations, probably by the next meeting in May. So we're targeting there. And then all of the ones that we have currently assigned to them, they're targeting to have completed by probably the first part of 2027. So it's not as quick as what we'd like to see happening, but we are working within a limited budget that we have within the city engineer.
It's great progress
So-
because, up until this year, there hasn't been any major activity in this area. So it's
Yeah.
great job.
So we're moving them forward there. And then just kind of the related to the active issues log, the there was the Fernwood at Brucher study that they had done that grew into, as we looked into that one, as one of these areas that kind of the ripple effects of looking at one thing leads to another issue and another one and another constraint and things. So it got fairly involved. And so that's landed as a capital improvement project that the city manager has been working through with CPRD and to move that forward, to get some funding and get that forward. I don't have any other update other than I know that discussions have happened and that capital engineering has that to be looking at to move that up as a project. It's most likely going to, I have hearing that it's most likely going to become some hybrid of the things presented versus it being specifically one of the things that had, one of the recommendations that had come through. So more to come on that. And then more recently within this, the work that Engineer Keller is doing, the city manager had presented them a request to look at a pedestrian crossing along Brucher near the Fairfield Inn. That's where the driveway goes to the Brucher and the bank on the one side, and then the driveway into Fred Meyer on the other side. That's technically not a intersection of a street and a street for where crosswalks would be. So that's kind of one of the things that I'm having them kind of take a look at and make certain that they get into their study as they move that forward. So, and that's not on our active issues log. It came through as an item from the city manager to Keller to work on. And then he's since asked to have my look at it, and ultimately probably going to be coming to the Traffic Safety Commission to look at their recommendations, look at Keller's recommendations, and then asking for the traffic safety to take a look at that. Still not certain of the status or where that's going to move forward, but that's kind of where it's at. It's back with them to continue looking at it.
I have a question about that particular issue.
Yeah.
A year or so ago, we were working on a policy, like traffic calming policy and things, in which the city council rejected our proposals. But in there was, I believe, some things that city staff was using to help resolve or look at issues. And one of them was something to do with the cost sharing on requests for traffic issues. Is that being something considered for this? Is Fairfield being considered to be paying part of this process or whatever?
To my knowledge, to what's gone on to date, that has not been the case. I'm a little unclear on just exactly where the request in this came from, other than the direction that Keller received from the city manager to take a look at this area.
Thank you.
And so that's what I've got on the traffic safety issues log. You'll continue to get updates on that as that comes through there, and I'll send you emails and things related to that as it goes forward there. But we'll have another update with the meeting in May.
Just real quick, you mentioned the word capital, and I was unclear if that's a business entity or if it's a classification of some kind.
Yeah, thank you. Sometimes I get used to the day-to-day of the information in terms that I utilize. So capital improvement projects. So capital improvement is like a public improvement, the capital that the city is spending, infrastructure type of a thing. So we have our capital engineering department heads up moving those projects forward and for the design and construction of those.
Just a quick question. Anyone in the room can answer. Which street is Fernwood on Brucher? I'm trying to in my head picture it.
Yeah, so where the golf course is, yeah, that's Fernwood is down there. Then where Brucher tees into that right there at the golf course there. Yeah, that's the Fernwood and Brucher intersection there.
That particular intersection is also part of the CPRD trails, and right now it's just kind of convoluted right there at that intersection because it ends over here and the next sidewalk is over here on the intersection. And so that's why it's become a difficult issue to come up with a resolution for that intersection.
And I'll use that opportunity, this question as an opportunity that within the links and information I sent to you on our website is a Traffic Safety Commission map. And it gives all the locations of our streets, the classifications, major collector, minor collector, local streets, ownership, jurisdiction, whether it's county, city, or but then also our traffic safety. Alan has worked to be able to get our traffic safety issues on the log, the current ones show up on that map as well. So yeah, that's been So that's a resource to look at as well for the locations of where these things are occurring, where the issues occur.
Okay, let's move on to new business. We have a presentation by Rachel.
Glad to be here with you tonight. So I'm going to give you a little presentation on the new city council set rules. Those are rules that they've set for council and committees. And these are the rules that guide the operation of our meetings, the conduct of our elected and appointed officials, and help us create uniform practices for how we handle these issues. So this training is going to be a broad overview. Now, raise your hand if you did the online one I sent out. That was a video. Okay, we got 1, 2. All right, thank you guys. So there might be some repetition, but I'll try and make this a little more interactive. So if you have questions about what's said, go for it. And for those of you who have not watched it, you may go ahead and skip watching the video and just confirm that you've had this training now. But hopefully this gives you some good ideas about how the meetings run, what you can do, and what policies you should follow. So before we can get started, I didn't even include the make sure you turn on the mic when you speak, which you've all figured out. Lean in so everyone can hear, and that you can attend by Zoom anytime. So make sure that if you need to do that, just let your staff know so that they're able to let you into the meeting. So, all right, go ahead and Alan, if you want to move me to the next slide. All right. So, I've got to move myself to the next slide too, so I know what I'm saying. Public meetings, like all government work, are governed by many levels of law, regulation, and rule. These are in a hierarchy with federal and state laws towards the top and local charter code and other rules on the bottom. All issues that are not covered by set laws or rules are covered by Robert's Rules of Order for small boards. Now, this is a subset of Robert's Rules of Order, which is simpler. So if we go back to the hierarchy slide, I'll point at you when I'm ready. In general, the rules at the lower levels of the hierarchy might be more restrictive than ones above them, but they can't be less restrictive. So if the council and committee rules say something, you guys can't pass a rule to make it easier for somebody, right? So you can't supersede those. And of course, we can't go to federal law and change that. So if any board, committee, or commission wants to set their own guiding rules or documents, they can, but they need to work with my office so we can make sure our rules are cohesive. We want to make sure that things go well together and that we're not creating confusion for the public. All right, go for it. Robert's Rules of Order for small boards are an abbreviated version of Robert's Rules of Order that works better in a situation like this when you've got about 9 people. You guys are actually one of the biggest boards we have at the city. The only one bigger is Budget Committee because it's council and an equal number of members of the community. So be very proud, you're a large board, but you're still pretty small. So these rules of order include things like not invoking fine points of Robert's rules. So we're not going to look for the most obscure Robert's rule and pull it out and call someone on something. We're going to keep our meetings as simple as possible. A quorum must be present to do business. All members are equal on your board. So even though you have a chair who's going to keep the meeting running, he has no more say on any decision than anyone else. The presiding officer, which is your chair or vice chair if the chair is absent, will recognize people before they speak. And then side discussion, so turning and having a chat with someone in the middle of the meeting is not allowed, and personal remarks. So we don't go after, well, of course you would say that. We try not to do those kinds of things. I'm so glad we don't really have to say that. All right, next slide. Let's see. So quorum. And if you do have questions, throw your hand up and I will pause because it's good to answer throughout. Yes, all right, here we are. I'm going to get into more and more detail as we go, so it'll be fun. Quorum is the majority of members are present at a meeting. So in your board, that would mean you'd have to have at least 5 people present to conduct a meeting because your board is 9. However, if there's a vacancy on the board, that doesn't count towards a quorum. So let's say one of you says, I'm done with this and quits. No, that's never going to happen because you all love serving the city, right? But if one of you had to move away for some reason or won the lottery and left us, and we had a vacancy, that would no longer count. So if your board went down to 8, your quorum would still be 5. If you went down to 7, it would now be 4. So just keep that in mind. Quorums are mandatory to conduct business or make decisions. So you could technically get information in less than a quorum, but generally what these rules say is if you don't have a quorum, end the meeting and don't continue. Serial meetings are really unique Oregon law related to quorum. Serial meetings are the idea that if a quorum of members discuss anything that could be before your board or is before your board, that's a meeting. And that can happen in the chambers. It could happen over email. It could happen on social media. It could happen in the grocery store down the street while you're walking your dog. So this is a major challenge we run into. All decisions and discussions about the items that are in front of your board have to be in a public meeting that has all sorts of rules and restrictions that I'll be going over. You have to be, has to be open to the public. You have to have a virtual attendance option. Has to be an accessible location that doesn't discriminate against anyone. So those are all the details I have to deal with and you don't have to think about. But I try and let you know that with serial meetings, serial meetings can look like council member A sees council member B at the store and has a quick discussion about, oh, you know, that land use decision we're making tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. And they have a quick chat about it. And then B is out walking their dog and runs into C. And now they've had 3 people involved in a discussion and they're getting even closer to their quorum. And on your board, it would take a couple more because you're more, but on a lot of our boards, 3 or 4 people and you've hit quorum. And now they've technically had a public meeting outside of the public eye. So this could happen over email. This is social media posts are a big one. Someone posts something about a city item and another person on the same board comments below and someone else likes it and another person likes it and all of a sudden you've had a meeting. This seems really overreach, but this is Oregon law and this is how it stands. So what I highly recommend is do not talk about business of this body outside of these meetings with each other at all. It's not safe. And when you send an email, please send it. I would recommend only sending it to your staff liaison and chair. If it has to go to everyone and it's just informational, your chair and staff liaison will know when it's safe to do so, to send that information out. You can't use someone else as an intermediary too. So you couldn't all send information to me and then I could help, chat in between you. You have to be really careful about things like this because it's all about transparency. So that's one of the most complex little details of being on a public board. And if you were caught in violation of that and someone made an ethics complaint, you would be liable for any fines or fees. The city is legally not allowed to pay them for you. So you're personally liable if that happens. So back to quorum. If you do not have a quorum when a meeting begins and you need to get one, you can ask staff to do a call of the house. So any members who are present can say, please do a call of the house. What that means is we're going to call your house, basically. We're going to call all of you and see where you are and try and get you here in any way possible or figure out what's going on. So we'll do our best to get a quorum present. But if you can't reach one, then we're going to have to end the meeting. How does that make sense? Serial meetings are really confusing. So, all right. Brett has a question.
Related to the quorum scenario and that in discussions, every once in a while, a committee will have a work session to have a topic on things that are established. If that work session meets independently and is less than a quorum, that stays within the guidelines of the law. Correct?
So technically, if you had a small subsection of your group, less than a quorum, meet to work on a specific item on your agenda, you would be okay in regards to the law, unless any members of that spoke to anyone else on the board about it. So if you ever choose to do this, and this is something that we just do sometimes because we have to get the job done, right? So you decide to put 3 people on a work group and work on a specific project outside of public meeting, that's fine. Just make sure that group does not discuss it with anyone else on the board outside of your public meetings. Does that make sense? Yeah, that's a major challenge. I can't tell you how often I staff the Historic Preservation Commission too, and they just want to go work on projects and they can't. All right, let's look at the next page here. So public comment is one of the areas where we need to be as consistent as possible across all of our boards and committees. That consistency is going to be an important defense if we ever have a complaint against the city for First Amendment violations or public meeting law violations. So we have to stay really, really, really consistent. We follow a very certain process. So in Newburgh, everyone who wants to give public comment has to register before doing so. So we have forms at the beginning of our meetings back here, and we also have an online registration form, so people can register either way. If once a meeting is called to order, no registration will be accepted after that point. So once it's called to order, we stop that. So they have to show up a few minutes early and fill out the form, except if there's a public hearing. So if you're doing an official public hearing, and staff will let you know when that is, then you can accept public comment registrations until the hearing portion of the meeting has been ended. So the testimony has been closed. So you guys don't really do a lot of public hearings. Occasionally you might, but it's very rare. So if that happens, your staff will walk you through it. So in general, if no public comment registration has been submitted before the meeting begins, you're not going to receive public comment. Now, of course, we made an exception tonight for our special guests, so that's okay. Now, the other details with this, if someone wants to give public comment over Zoom or online, over phone or Zoom, we require them to register ahead of time online by noon on that day. The reason we do this is to avoid something called Zoom bombing, which is where people will attend your meeting to give basically, you know, hateful public comments for hours sometimes. Someone will go to, you know, the dark net somewhere and post a link and say, everyone show up to this meeting and we're all going to speak on our topic. And you'll have 15, 20, 30, 40, Beaverton had over 100 people show up once over Zoom and just give endless comments. We've had this happen one time here in Newburgh, and we had an endless rant of anti-Semitic comments happen, and it was horrible. So we put this low barrier in place because it's just one little hurdle, and it helps us keep those impulsive things from happening. Now, people could still show up and share things that we don't like, but they have to actually try a little bit harder. The other thing we do is for written comments. Mind me, written comments do have to be submitted at least 48 hours ahead of a meeting. If that falls on a weekend, we say, you know, the Friday before. So we ask for 48 hours so that we can actually add it to your packet so you can read it or distribute it to all of the members of the commission. If people cannot do that, they may bring written comment to a meeting and distribute it, but we ask them to bring printed copies and they have to give them to all of you and to the staff members so it can be archived permanently. Now, the city no longer allows written comment to be read aloud during the meeting. So you used to say, here's a written comment, read it into the record, and a staff member would sit there and read someone's comment. Well, in today's day and age, we don't want people having to put their voices to things they don't agree with that can be stolen for sound bites across the internet. So we had moved to using technology, but now the decision has been made that we won't read written comment into the record. It is part of the record in writing. It will always be part of the record in writing, but we're not going to read it out loud for them. If they want it out loud at the meeting, they need to come give spoken comment. The exception to this is for ADA exceptions. So if someone contacts my office and requests an ADA accommodation for a meeting, then we will accommodate whatever accommodations they need. And so that may include reading out loud for them or saying their comment for them. So if someone asks you about that, that's what the standard is. We don't read those into the record anymore. The other new change with these rules is that your board only has to accept comments that are relevant to your board. So if someone shows up and starts sharing something completely irrelevant to your board, we refer them to city council. Now, the way this practically works is that when they register, we'll say, oh, this isn't relevant to the board here. You'll need to bring this comment to the city council meeting, and we give them back their registration. If someone makes it up to the podium and starts speaking and it's irrelevant, we can't really stop them. But we're going to try and redirect at the point of entry, basically. We cannot stop people for the content of what they're saying, but we can stop them for the manner in which they are saying it. So if someone is using inappropriate language, they're screaming at us, they're threatening people, they're using hate speech, we can say this is a violation of our conduct rules and you must stop that XYZ behavior. And if they don't stop, we can have them escorted out by the police if need be. So if someone were to get up and just go off on you guys and in a really inappropriate way, then there's something you can do about it. However, if they're just saying something you don't like or you don't agree with, we can't stop them. And it can be pretty horrific. Oregon state law has had cases where people had stood in the meetings giving Nazi salutes and they could not be removed from the meeting. So Oregon state law basically says as long as it's not disrupting the progress of the meeting, can't do anything about it. So just be aware of that. It's pretty strict. Oregon also has an attendance law, but not a participation law. We're required to let members of the public attend our meetings, and we're required to provide a virtual attendance option as well. But we are not required by Oregon state law to allow participation. So public comment is a courtesy we've extended and City Council has chosen to extend. And City Council can change their mind and choose not to allow public comment anymore. Something to be aware of, except for in cases like public hearings where it's a legal requirement. All right, and thanks. I'm getting over a cold, so. All right, debate. So one of the things you guys get to do is you get to have debates. So debate is separate from discussion in this way. So debate is what happens after a motion has been made. You guys can discuss what's going on, have conversations about an idea before someone's made a motion. But once a motion's been made, you've entered into what's called debate. And it's a slightly more formal portion of the meeting. Now, keep in mind, you don't have to be so formal that it scares everyone away, right? Parliamentary procedure is really complex. So all this Robert's Rules stuff can be a little annoying. So just follow these after motions made and keep it simple. Basically, every member that wants to speak shall look at the presiding officer and get their attention. I saw several things. You can say his name, you can wave at him, just get his attention till he calls on you. And once you've been recognized, then you need to focus on the questions at hand. So once a motion's been made, we're focusing directly on that motion and what's at hand. And always being respectful, of course, as you all will be. And once you've been recognized, no one should interrupt you unless it's to be called to order, which I will get into in just a second. Okay, let's go next. There are a few different options for taking votes. A roll call vote is when each member is called by name. So we go around and say all your names and you say, hey, aye or nay or whatever it is. And a voice vote is when you say all in favor, say aye, and everyone says it at the same time. Roll call votes are required in some situations, such as the passing of orders or ordinances. So in public hearings, you would have to do one of those. But in other times, you can interchange with the voice votes as desired. So generally, your commission can do a voice vote. Now, if it's something that's kind of contentious and you think there might be a pretty split decision on it, sometimes a roll call vote is very helpful to staff when we're recording the vote, because we legally have to document the actual vote of every single person on a board when we do those things. We have to put that in the minutes. All votes have to be visible to the public. You can't ever do a private ballot, sorry. And also your motions have to follow some rules. They have to be distinctly worded, so very clear, plain language. It has to make sense and focused on one thing. If they don't get a second, they die. So someone has to second a motion. And you'll only have your official debate after it's been moved and seconded. Now you can have casual conversation beforehand. You can also make amendments to it, so you can request to change it. You can request to do all sorts of other things. Also, if it's really complex, anyone can ask that the motion be put in writing. So if someone makes a motion, it's really complex, or even if it's not and you just need to see it written down, you can make a motion to put it in writing and the staff can put it in writing. What we generally recommend with this is we'll pull up a Google Doc, put it up on the screen and write it down so you guys can see it. That's really helpful if it gets really complicated. Hopefully this isn't something you need. Yes. Or not a Google Doc.
Just a comment or related to that. At times, the motions can get complicated to where even staff has a challenge writing out what's being asked for and things. So there have been times that we've used even within this commission where the request has been made to staff to take the information presented and draft a motion to come bring back to the commission to then clarify that that is what the intent, and then those can get amended or before. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's always a great option too, is this is getting really complicated. Let's table it, have staff work on it and bring it back as a more formalized motion. Sometimes that's really needed. If someone amends or changes a portion of a motion, so that means basically someone said, I vote that it's called teddy bears, the official toy of the city of Newburgh, and someone says, I like that motion, except I want to change teddy bears to stuffed ducks. I don't know what it is. And that would be an amendment. So you would vote on the amendment, whether or not you guys want to change it, and then you would vote on the full motion. That makes sense. We always use animal votes for those demonstrations. When there's already a question on the table, so when someone's made a motion a second, we're not going to make another motion except for certain ones. One is laying the matter on the table, which it means getting rid of this. One is calling for the question. That means end debate and vote. That means this has gone on too long, guys. Let's just take a vote on this. To postpone, so we're going to delay this vote for a specific time. To refer, to send it to another committee or person for more information, or to amend. And the person who made a motion can withdraw it at any time. So without the consent of anyone else. So if someone made a motion, and even if it's been seconded and it's going on and they just decide, never mind, I'm withdrawing my motion, they can. So, but only the person who made the original motion. If a motion contains several elements, it can be divided. And if someone says, I call the question, that closes the debate, you go straight to the vote. But you vote on whether or not you call the question. So that's the first motion, and then you vote on the motion. So that's a fun one. Let's see, tie votes will always fail. The presiding officer has to state the motion before a vote. So if someone makes a motion, someone seconds, then the presiding officer will state the motion again, or then there'll be debate. Then the presiding officer will state the motion and then call the vote, okay? So motions are only made once too. An item is closed once the meeting ends. So once you've made a motion and a decision, you can't revisit that unless it is done at the very same meeting. So what that looks like for reconsideration is, as the meeting continues, if there's a decision that needs to be reconsidered, you go back and someone from the prevailing side, the side that won, would say, I make a motion to reconsider our earlier motion. You discuss it again, you can reconsider it at that time. But once the meeting is closed, that decision stands. And the reason we've done this is when we go back and forth on decisions and might change it every other meeting, you end up with wasted staff time, a lot of public confusion. Sometimes we've, passed a law, it's enacted for a month and then it's getting recalled. You don't want to be in that situation. So we need to be careful about that. Does that make sense? All right. All right, guys, sorry, this is dry stuff sometimes, but it's important. All right, let's look at the motion script really quick. So this is a basic script for passing a motion. Makes a lot of sense. Someone makes a motion. Oh, look, I did toys for this one too. Someone seconds. Presiding officer notes that a motion has been made and seconded, asks for discussion or debate. That'll occur. Then you're going to restate the motion, conduct the roll call, and then announce the results. Really simple. Here's some really useful ones. I mentioned these earlier. The one I want to point out is one called point of order. So if someone is violating the rules of the meeting or the rules that I'm teaching you right now, you can call them out. So if someone's being inappropriate, having side conversations, just not following proper decorum, you can always say point of order and state what's going on that shouldn't be happening. And that's a way of gently reminding someone else that they need to get back to the rules of the meeting. Now, the chair decides on any point of order. So if you call one and say, you're being rude and you shouldn't be speaking to your fellow board member that way, the chair will say, I don't think what they said is rude, or it is or not, or you can decide on that. Now, if the chair says, no, that's not out of order, but the rest of the committee disagrees, you can call it again and hold a vote, and the committee can decide. That makes sense? Now, hopefully, of course, we can all just talk to each other and say, oh, guys, remember, we don't want to do it that way. Gentle reminders are always great. Hopefully, you never have to be that formal. All right, next slide. Ethics and decorum. Of course, the basic decorum of these meetings is that you don't want to have delays, you want to follow the rules, and that the presiding officer is in charge of keeping that decorum. So if the meeting starts getting out of order, Mr. Coleman, it's your responsibility to pull it back into order. Have fun with that now. One of the big things here is that when you are speaking about the business of this committee, because you are an official of this committee, you can only state the official decisions of the body when you're speaking on behalf of the committee. So if you're having a conversation with a member of the news media or any member of the public, you'll say, the Traffic Safety Committee has decided this. If you ever state an opinion that's not the official opinion of the committee, you need to say, this is my opinion only. This is not the official position of the committee. Once the decision's been made, it's best to only speak the official position. This committee has decided this point. Keep in mind that this applies for things like social media statements, statements to the press, and casual conversations. This is a very small town. If you are heard saying something out and about, and Fred Meyer, it'll get back to you. So be aware. And if you're going to go against the official statement of the committee, you might want to just say it, even when you're talking to your friend. So, all right, let's go on to the next one, absences. If you're going to be absent from a meeting, please contact your chair and the staff liaison to let them know. Generally, if you let them know ahead of time, absences will be considered excused, just as long as you've let people know. If a member of the committee has unexcused absences for more than 25% of meetings, they can be excused from the committee. And to do so, what that means is the committee will confirm the absences and that they are now disqualified from service, and the staff will vacate the position. Now, of course, it's always a good idea to simply reach out if it's starting to become a problem and see if you can get that person back to the meetings. We'd always rather just say, oh, you've missed a couple. Can you try and make it to the next one instead of calling someone out? But if we need to and someone just has ghosted the committee, we want to get them off and get someone else on the board. So please keep that in mind as an option because this could lead to quorum issues. Any questions on that? Okay, straightforward. All right, schedule changes. Meetings can be canceled because there's going to be a lack of quorum or there's a lack of business. So if Brett calls you up and says, there's really not much for us to be doing this month, you can cancel the meeting. That's okay to do. Any meeting outside of the regularly scheduled ones, the ones that we approved tonight, are called special meetings. They can be held. So if you have a special decision to be made or you want to have an extra meeting to work on something, you can do that. But you need to schedule them with my office so we can avoid any conflicts with other public meetings. We have limited spaces, limited technology. We want to make sure that we can make sure there are nothing's running into each other. The chair has that authority, or the request of 3 members together can schedule a meeting. Now, things like scheduling and just information scheduling is exempt from serial meetings. So if you need to talk to 2 other people, say, hey, I think we need to have a special meeting, go for it. You're okay there. When you want to schedule a meeting, go ahead and discuss dates and times, but don't confirm them as official until we've checked for scheduling conflicts. All right.
So what about items to be on an agenda?
Mm-hmm. That is, let me see, do I have that next? That's on my next slide. All right, let's go to the next slide. Oh, I read your mind. This is great. So I'll get to that here. So the legal deadline for agendas, and now I'm telling you all this, even though staff handles this for you, because once again, this is one of those things, if it's not done right, you're the ones legally liable for it, but it's our job to do. So you'll get in trouble if we don't do our jobs. So, you know, I'm sure we would too, actually, but legally, I don't want you guys to get in trouble. The legal deadline is that agendas must be posted and noticed at least 48 hours prior to a meeting. We generally do a week ahead of time. So council has asked that we always try and do 7 days ahead of time. For committees, that 7-day deadline is requested, but it's not a mandatory thing. The 48 hours is your mandatory thing. After an agenda has been published, you can add more items to it. So you can add supplementary items, post another agenda later if you need to. But we try and do that ahead of that 48-hour deadline still. So if you ever notice for council, we put one out a week ahead of the meeting, and then the Friday before the meeting, we do a supplementary agenda if anything needs to be added. So you guys can always do that. The agenda always must include the topics of discussion, a date, time, place, and information about ADA accommodations. So who to contact for accommodations. And some actions require further notice and should be added, addressed on a case-by-case basis. So there's some things like public hearings that need at least 7 days of public notice. And if your agenda is serving as your notice, that means it needs to be published at least 7 days in advance. So staff will know when that is the case and will help you with that. But just be aware that That's sometimes if they say, no, we can't schedule a meeting in 2 days, there's a reason. We have to get all of our ducks in a row. Now, if you, yeah,
So my question about agenda, so Brett, you try to get our agenda out 7 days before. And if any of the counselors have issues, they would address that to you.
Yeah, that's what's occurred in the past is usually what'll happen if a commissioner has a request for something to be on the agenda, usually that'll come to me. And I will get with the chair to confirm for that to be on the agenda.
Mhm.
Move that forward.
Let's see.
So those would, so the agenda would come out from you 7 days in advance, basically, like the week before. The counselors would have a chance to review that agenda, and if they had concerns or questions or additions, they would then address that to you, and then you would bring that back.
Yeah, what I would do in that situation is I would get with you to confirm it, to add it to the agenda, and then we would need to get it out by that next Friday. So there'd need to be enough time. If I get the information late on Friday afternoon, it may not make it into the agenda in a supplemental packet. It would need to be earlier to give accommodation for that.
I know in some of the other commissions and boards I'm on, there's actually an item in the agenda that talks about any additional agenda items. I don't see that on our agenda, so.
I have more on that here. So, you are legally allowed to discuss things that are not on your agenda. So if it's not officially written out there, you can discuss other items. It's not great practice to make a decision about something that isn't written on the agenda, but you can have a discussion and bring it up. So don't worry about doing that. So if often there's commissioner comments, I think you have a section at the end. So if you guys have something to bring up, feel free to bring it up at that point. Requesting an item, the chair has the authority to set the meeting agenda. So you can always say add things and we have to jump. Now, if anyone else would like something added to the agenda, they should contact the chair and the staff liaison and say, I'd like to add this item to the agenda. We generally recommend no later than 10 days before the meeting, so staff has time to get it in the agenda. But if you read the agenda and then had something you thought needed to be added in response, I mean, that makes sense. Obviously, you're going to add it later. If the chair declines to add the topic and you feel that you have the support of other members of the committee, you can bring it up at the beginning of your meeting and say, I have a point of business. I'd like this item added to the agenda, and someone would second it and the committee would vote on it. So the chair can, unless the chair says, yeah, that's fine, we can add it at the meeting. But so there's always checks and balances. There's ways for the committee to overrule the chair. I'm sorry, you don't have too much power. But please keep in mind that the chair has a lot of authority, but the committee also can work together to have authority as well. So keep those things. That's a really important part of our government. So anything else on agendas? Okay. All right, let's look at the next one here. Next one is agenda order and scripts. So agendas don't have to have a rigid order that you follow every single time. You can set your own order. So if you're like, oh, let's do the consent agenda at the end, or let's do public comments at the end, you can do that. You have that flexibility. We provide some basic scripts and templates just to make life easier for you. But most of the scripts we've written are for council, so you may have to adapt them for your meetings. And like I said, agendas will be published by staff in accordance with legal deadlines. So you guys don't have to actually go out and write the agendas. We're doing that work. That's what they pay us the medium bucks for. Yeah. All right, let's go to the next page here. Another thing that that staff does for you, but you should know about, is minutes. They're also a requirement of Oregon Public Meeting Law. Now, keep in mind that we are always recording these meetings too. So if you didn't know, you're on camera and being recorded this whole time. And those recordings can be considered minutes. They can serve in place in the minutes. However, our city has elected to take written action minutes, which are very bullet point minutes, very simple, as well to document the work of boards. For historical purposes, it is much easier to review minutes that are written down than to review hours of video. So we maintain the video for quite a while, but we don't retain it permanently. We do retain the written minutes permanently in accordance with Oregon law. Minutes have to be signed by the chair or presiding officer and the staff member who prepared them, but they do not have to be approved in your meetings. So that's one item that Brett and I would like you to think about tonight, is whether or not you even want to review them in the meeting body anymore and approve them. That's something that's been standard practice for your body for a while. City Council has not done it in about 4 years. They stopped a while back. Part of this is because we've got an actual recording of the agenda of the meeting. And the way that we make minutes right now, I'll be very transparent with you. So we take the agenda, we take the recording, we use AI to draft it, and then staff members edit it. This saves the city lots of money, and it's actually a really efficient way to do it. But I do tell you that we don't just produce them with AI. We do look over every single word and make sure it is accurate. We're not going to just let computers do something funny. So consider whether or not you want to continue to approve those in your meetings. The nice thing about not doing it that way is we can get them out, the official version out to the public a lot faster. The minutes do have to include a detailed record of the vote. So I have to document the exact vote of every person. We can't even just put unanimous vote. We have to say, this person voted yes, this person voted yes, and list them all out. And if there's any conflicts of interest that are declared, we have to detail those in the minutes as well. Yeah. So if a member has to abstain from something because there's an appearance of a conflict of interest or an actual conflict of interest as defined by state law, then we would document what that is in the minutes so that everyone knows what happened there. All right, appointments. So getting appointed to your committee can happen in a couple different ways. So city committee members are made, or appointments are made by the mayor and confirmed by city council. Our urban renewal agency committees are appointed by the urban renewal chair, which is Derek Carmen, who is your council liaison, who's usually here for these meetings, and then approved by that board. The library board's slightly different. They interview their applicants and then they make a recommendation to the mayor of who to appoint. And that's by city code. The library board's been around since 1906, so it's got some other rules. Every time your term ends, you must reapply to continue on the board. Now, this is a really simple process now that we've moved to our new board management system. So please keep an eye out for emails from OnBoardGov. That is us. That is our system. And those are going to send you reminders to reapply. That's where we're going to send you reminders about certifications, which a few of you have done. Good job. So please watch those and do follow the links and do what they say. Those will help us keep it on track. If you are reapplying and you've already applied through that system, it's a simple matter of just clicking reapply, updating any information you want, and your application is in again. So really simple, but our code actually requires this. Our city charter and code require applications every time for appointments. If you have any questions about your service on the committee, please talk to Brett or me about it, and we'll help you out. And this is the fun detail that I get to bring up, staff interactions. You've got to keep your interactions with staff members to day-to-day business. So you are welcome to ask us questions that are simple and we can answer quickly, or to interact with us in our official capacity in our day-to-day role. However, you do not get to assign work to staff members. So you don't get to show up and say, I'd like you to do this work and get this project done. So if there is a complex thing that needs to be taken care of that's going to take a significant amount of time, the committee would have to decide. No one person on the committee can go to someone and say, I'd like you to write me a research paper on this. It's going to need to be 30 pages. That's going to take a significant amount of time. So the committee would need to decide this is something they actually want staff to spend time on. They would vote on it. The staff liaison would then take this to the city manager and say, the committee has asked us to do this work. Who would you like to do it? And the city manager will assign it to a staff member, because that's his authority, is to assign the work. So if it is not something really simple, like a quick question, make sure to ask and reach out to, or do it as a board. If it's something really quick, like, hey, Brett, what does this term mean? Or can you give me a resource that we have on hand? Feel free to email Brett and ask him that question. This also means you don't get to skip lines for things like building permits or anything like that. You have to follow the actual processes. And you can't undermine staff. So if a staff member makes a decision that is in their purview, you can't say unilaterally, oh, I'll help you with that. Staff's being ridiculous or something like that. If staff's made a decision in their role, we don't undermine them to members of the public. You know that staff, we do the day-to-day work. You guys make the policies. So it's really important that we remember those roles and that we have to respect that you guys make those big policy decisions and that we're going to handle all that day-to-day work for you so you guys can hold your other jobs. And the other thing on this is that we have weekends off. We ask that members of boards, committees, and commissions really respect staff time. We know that sometimes the only time you have to do this work is on the weekends because you're volunteers. But we ask that you don't call and bother staff members between the hours of 6 p.m. on Friday and 6 a.m. on Monday morning. Let us have our weekends off unless it's an absolute emergency. Now, feel free to send an email in that time period. We just won't answer because we're off the clock. And that's the same with holidays and days off that we have. We try and respect that staff have, we would really like to have lives outside of work at least. So but thank you for that. All right. And that is my very long presentation, but hopefully helpful presentation on how all this works. You may reach out to me anytime. You'll either get me or Melissa, who's my deputy recorder. We're happy to answer any questions, help you with little detail things, get your tech working, whatever you need.
Great. I think, thank you. That was a very good presentation and I appreciate all the information. Are there any questions? Okay, good. Thank you. Staff presentation, Traffic Safety Commission purpose and duties.
Yeah, so hopefully this is going to be, it's a lot of information I'm going to go over fairly quickly and definitely have questions as we go along. And kind of just giving an overview, I started kind of your question earlier, Roger kind of asked, and I kind of started that. But basically I'm going to talk about kind of within the Newburgh Municipal Code, has an Article 5 that defines the Traffic Safety Commission, how it got created, how it's set up, all the different things. So we got into the things, I'll bring in the purpose and duties of the commission. We also have the authority of the Traffic Safety Commission. And I mentioned earlier that there's these limited traffic decisions and the general traffic decisions. We'll go into a little bit more detail. And then the implementation of those decisions. The code kind of has some definitions of how that all happens. And then also within this section is an authority of the city engineer related to traffic decisions that are a little bit outside of the commission itself. They're not quite the limited decision where it requires the notifications, and they're not the general traffic decisions that are the larger area. So we'll talk about that as well. And kind of within the purpose and duties of the Traffic Safety Commission, it's up there. You can leave it. You can leave. Yeah, thanks, Alan. The investigation, study, analysis of traffic safety programs, to conduct the educational efforts among the public in matters of public safety, and then to consider all traffic safety programs which are referred to them from a recommendation by the city council, and make reports to the city council on matters of traffic safety and traffic safety programs. So basically a lot of this falls into, like I was referring to, kind of that educational component of the engineering, education, and enforcement of traffic safety. And the traffic safety programs that are referenced in this are not necessarily ones that the city has. The city does not have any current traffic safety programs. That is a purview of this commission, if you so desire, to research and prepare and propose some traffic safety program scenarios. And a way to do that would be researching what other jurisdictions have done. There's resources. I've given you the links on that piece of it. So that's just kind of that component of things. And next slide, Alan. And then some specific things are laid out, but it's not limited to this. And then within this slide and in the packet, I've kind of highlighted some things that I think would be good for this commission to look into, the making recommendations to city council on issues pertaining to traffic safety. Roger mentioned earlier about the traffic calming policy, the draft that was the previous members of the commission had moved forward and got it to a certain point in a draft form to present to council, that basically asked to move it forward, and it was going to take additional resources, and that was not moved forward. But that doesn't mean the commission can't make recommendations similar to that or others that go to council for implementation. If it doesn't get implemented now, it might be for a variety of reasons, but it would be on the record to be able to move forward in the future, or be revisited in maybe some different fashion. The fostering public knowledge, support of traffic law enforcement, that's definitely an involvement there. That's kind of the public information officer asking for input on things to send out to the public and get information out on there. And then holding public hearings on traffic safety, traffic issues, that really comes out of the general decisions that occur that come through there. And I'll touch on that in a future slide here. So there's limited traffic decisions. No, you're good. Thank you. Oh, you're ready. You're right. You're right there. Unless there was any questions on the previous slide there. All right. So limited decisions, these are these decisions that happen in one particular location. They're things we use, the city engineer is the one that makes the ultimate decision. And I provide some input onto that. A lot of them are the things that Keller are working on that are more, take a little bit more research time, resources. Maybe we need data collected, either speed counts that GIS can help with, or traffic counts that we get collected out from an outside agency to, or firm to do that and collect those. And then those decisions are ones where it's decided to go through that process. And then there's a notification process that goes out to the residents in the area. And then from that piece of it, there could be a request for a hearing from that. That could lead to a public hearing to review that limited decision. The general traffic decisions, those are the ones when we look at it, and the city engineer weighs in on this aspect of it. If it's going to go something that's more of a policy type of thing, it's something that's a larger area. It's a general block elements. In the past, we've had these come in that have gone this direction where somebody has requested an entire section of a block of street to be made no parking, where parking is typically allowed other than within 20 feet of a marked crosswalk or an existing crosswalk marked or not walked. We didn't see, and if from an engineering standpoint, we either did or did not see reasons to do that type of a scenario. We would there would be a staff report written with either a recommendation one way or another. And then that came as a public hearing before this commission to be listened to the arguments for and either moved forward or not. And in the past, when that's occurred, it has, I would say the majority of times that I can recall, they did not move forward for a variety of reasons, typically because of other conflicts or constraints, but that doesn't mean that something couldn't occur. And then decisions of the commission are final unless they're appealed to the city council in accordance with the Newburgh Municipal Code 215-450. And then the final decisions, the enactment, this is what I was referring to. So once the decision is made, the limited decision made through the city engineer with a report to the Traffic Safety Commission or a general decision, the city manager ultimately is the one that assigns the resources to do that work. And if the resources are available, oftentimes there's some of the things that come through our Public Works Maintenance Department, such as maybe marking a crosswalk or adding a no parking sign in an area. They have funds available and they can incorporate that in their existing work plans and budget. They move forward and do that. Other times there's not the budget or resources as readily available and it has to wait and be put onto a work item at a later date. Or it could be something that grows large like the Fernwood at Brucher pedestrian crossing we were talking about earlier. That becomes a capital improvement project, needs to get the funding associated and signed for that and move that forward. And next slide. And then I mentioned before, there's authority of the city engineer that have the authority to make traffic decisions related to establishing, maintaining, removing, and altering traffic control device. Those are things similar. There was basically at Hallworth and Springbrook. Recently, there was the flashing stop signs added to that. That was done under this commission. We made an alteration that actually came as a request recommendation from our traffic patrol officers for that. And Public Works Maintenance was able to identify the signs that they were needed and move that forward. And that came through that way. So that was something we were able to do fairly quickly. Public Works Maintenance had the funds to do that and that moved forward.
I have a question. The city engineer is no longer a city employee. It's a contractor.
The city is not a city employee. It's provided by Keller Associates. Keller Associates has provided an individual that serves in the role of the city engineer. That's Travis Smith.
So does the contractor has the authority of the city engineer?
The contractor it's a consultant firm, not a construction contractor type of thing. It's an engineering firm doing it, but they are under contract with the city of Newburgh to provide the city engineer role.
So they do act as the city engineer.
They do act as the city engineer. And then that is Keller Associates, yes, currently. And so as the code indicates there, when those decisions are made that way, it goes into the log of decisions. It's presented to this Traffic Safety Commission that occurred and the reasons why. So that's usually done with a memo that we'll provide in the packet. And next slide, Al. Then any questions?
Any questions? Yes.
Not really a question, but hopefully, the police can give a report next meeting on the, success of that change at, Springbrook and Hayward of the traffic signals that were.
I will ask them if
stop
they
signs.
have identified any changes in from, since that's been in place for a while now.
Just, well, you know, I think I'm gonna set up a meeting with the chief to talk to him about the importance of having somebody from the police department here at each one of these meetings and to provide information for us and be able to answer our questions. And it's been disappointing that they've not been here for a number of meetings. Okay, so we on to review of the 2025 Traffic Safety Commission work plan.
And so this, I put this in so that with all the new commissioners, so that you're all aware of what the work plan that was established in the past. And the idea of this point presenting it to you now is just to identify that what exists. You do have the purview to make modifications to this. I will say that kind of as we talk about this operational traffic safety component, number one item, that's really staff-driven activities that are associated with the commission, with input from the commission under those items. The active issues log, like I talked about, it's a living document. If as you're reviewing this with the new members in there, if there's information that you're not seeing, would like to see, let me know and we can see about incorporating in and capturing. One of the things that I've been considering is adding, and it's getting busy, but I've been considering of adding in at some point, whether it's at the archive log stage or the issues log, is giving an indication of whether an item falls into or it overlaps with the engineering, education, or enforcement components of traffic safety. So it gives that some thought. I'm not looking for any kind of input on that tonight. Just kind of give that some thought as you review these things over the next months and that. And then next slide. And then this is the long range planning elements there of the traffic safety. So the things that have been talked about is we have a lot of documents that the city has. The transportation system plan is one that's looking to be updated. There's a grant that's been asked for, still waiting on to get confirmation that we're going to get that. So hopefully that we get that and that moves forward in the near future. And I've had conversation with the city manager that he does intend to incorporate this commission into having input in some fashion. Not sure the details of that. That'll be worked out as that gets scoped and moved forward there. And then kind of within the transportation system plan, that ADA pedestrian bike route and improvement plan, that was a precursor that's incorporated into the master plan. But there's always elements for this commission to look at any of these documents to identify things where you might see as a commission, make recommendations for changes to or things to be looked into. And then just other lists is that traffic calming policy. That's the note that's indicated there. There was a traffic calming policy that is noted there from 2018 that was developed by this commission earlier back then. That never did get adopted by council. I don't know the details of why that did not move forward in that fashion.
Brett, were these included in our packet?
That should be in the packet in the last page.
Thank you. Didn't get that far, sorry.
Yeah, I think I had the full code section in there as well for the traffic safety. And then the last thing that's in there is we have some policy forms, the parking change request policy form, stop sign policy packet, and marked crosswalk memos. Those all came about several years ago at the request of the Traffic Safety Commission, city engineer at the time. And we put together, staff at the time put those together to kind of help to give some guidance documents, both for the public as well as staff, for when stop signs are appropriate, the process for making a parking change request, either to make an area that would otherwise be parking, no parking, or an area of that is designated no parking, that might not be a by law area. There's a few of those areas in the city that had been done, and change it back to being allowing parking. So I mentioned before about a block being made is to be no parking type of thing. That's type of the scenario that came about. Is at one point it was determined it should be no parking, and then later it was requested to be allow parking again. So those are all things that could be looked at by this commission and and have recommendations for revisions or updates or new things.
Yeah, and I'm gonna add a little bit to what Brett said on what the process looks like when you bring these things to city council. So basically, there's a couple different ways that you can do this. You can always refer something to city council anytime. You can ask your staff liaison to go speak to council. You can ask to put an item on their agenda and go speak to them about it anytime. So your staff member can walk you through that. So Brett can walk you through that. So keep that in mind. A lot of our committees and commissions will create a detailed work plan of like this, what we're going to work on this part of this year, this is what we'll do next, and bring that to council ahead of time to get their feedback on it and approval. That way you don't start working on a project, get it finished, bring it to council, then they say no. That's the most frustrating thing that can happen to anyone, and we don't want to waste anyone's time. So we highly recommend either, before you start a specific project or coming up with a comprehensive work plan, bring it to council and get their approval on it. That way, when you bring it back to them, you say, as you guys approved in your work plan, here is the traffic calming policy or whatever it is that you want to work on. That can help smooth the road. It also can make sure that you're in alignment with the council goals, since they are the ultimate deciders of most things. You're mostly a recommending body and they make the decision, except for your specific purview. So making sure that you guys are on the same page before you launch into a project can really help things go a lot more smoothly. So that's something I highly recommend.
I understand that this mayor has a meeting, a monthly meeting or so with the chairman of the different committees to talk about things like this issue, and so that he is aware of what's being talked about, or he can present his ideas about what he thinks things are good.
Yeah, we've had a meeting and it's kind of fizzled out and it might restart. We'll let you know. But if it happens, you'll definitely be getting an email as a chair. But you can also reach out to the mayor anytime and have that conversation, or your city council representative. So that could be Derek, and have a conversation. One thing a lot of committees will do too is that they'll talk about something important and then ask their council representative to bring it to council. So that's a totally appropriate way to handle it as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
So any questions or comments for Brett? Yes.
How does this, what is it called? C-Click Fix interact with our issues log? Because you can put in traffic safety and incidents in there. And
yeah, so those C-Click Fix, whenever somebody puts something in that's a traffic safety issue, a lot of times that gets looked at. I think Emily, takes the first look at that and then assigns those. And there's, again, within the traffic safety elements, there can be either an education, enforcement, or engineering component of things. And so a lot of the ones that I get assigned to me, and I'll see that, the things that are in enforcement, that are obvious enforcement scenario, I just forward those on and basically reassign those to PD or to dispatch for those to be looked at and taken into account. If it's something that merits kind of that engineering or even the public education component of it, I'll add that into the active issues log and will be there. One thing that my predecessor had done was when those things came through C-Click Fix, that was when it was new. I think she was noting it as that it came through C-Click Fix. I have not been doing that, seeing as I'm seeing it as an issue, whether it comes in as whether I get an issue that comes in as an email to the traffic safety email, I get a direct email, I get a direct phone call. It's through C-Click Fix. If those are elements that are part of meet the criteria to be on the active issues log, they get entered in and be there. And that criteria is a little bit arbitrary. I will say if it's related to traffic safety and it's not a vision issue that's an obvious code enforcement or an obvious or other code enforcement element there, those will move on either to code enforcement officer or PD, and those don't end up on the active issues log if there's not, doesn't appear to be an engineering component to those.
yeah, I had the city had a website where you could put in information about potholes, get potholes fixed. And now they're directing us to C-Click Fix for that. So that was the thing was, but then it wasn't a pothole thing in there, but there was a traffic safety. And I actually entered one in and, within a week, guys filled the pothole, which was great on one of these streets near me. But wasn't really clear that that's where, I figured that's where potholes would go.
Yeah.
But there wasn't like a pothole fix category.
There was not a
under
pothole fix
C-Click
category in the
Fix.
C-Click Fix.
Yeah.
I've been talking with Emily on, there's a few categories because a lot of things fall into that traffic safety category within the element, and they're not necessarily a traffic safety issue for the committee. The pothole, now, does a pothole create a traffic safety issue? Yes, but that needs to get to the Public Works Maintenance so that can be handled efficiently and quickly to resolve that issue. So we're working through some elements to kind of make that a little clearer.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Thank you, Brett. Maybe one of the things we might look for an agenda item for the next meeting is a discussion of, more of a discussion of this, the commission work plan, and for homework to kind of take a look at some of these things that has been looked at in the past, and then come to our next meeting and actually put together a plan for what things that we would like to be working on in 2026 and beyond if possible. So, and appreciate staff adding things that, that they see that they're working on, how that could have been incorporated into our work too.
Yeah, I'll try to have an update on where we're at with the transportation system plan from the city manager and others working with that to see if we can, just to inform you on that as well as you look at your work plan.
Okay, staff comments.
I added this to the agenda that has not been previous on the agenda. The main intent was I wanted to bring attention to the link, the email I sent with the links to all the various resources, both within the city website, a share drive for this commission, and then also other websites and other resources that are around there. I just kind of wanted to reiterate that information and make certain that everybody had received that email to get from that information. So to be able to move forward with that. And then other than that, it's just kind of welcome to the commission and
Thank you.
forward to moving forward.
With the city's email policy or program, it's important to take a look at those at least my goal is every Monday morning, I look at that and then kind of go back to it if I get a chance during the week, but I try to make that commitment to Monday mornings. I look at my city email to see what's there. So other than the constant reminders about doing your whatever the education review thing they ask you to do.
So thank you for me. That was one other comment I wanted to make, is to kind of make certain that you do check your Newburgh email addresses. I know some of you haven't got those set up yet, but when you do, and it's just the nature of how this commission is, we meet quarterly. So there will be gaps when there's not any emails being sent to you. And then there will be, because what I also do is I'll forward you the Oregon Impact. You can also sign up to get those directly, but I also forward that information as well, or anything else I get that comes to me. Is some might consider it spam, but it's if you're interested in traffic safety issues, I will forward those on to you as I see them. So that's what I had.
Thank you.
You might.
I have one more staff comment. So we asked you briefly earlier about approving minutes at these meetings. I wanted to ask if you'd like to discuss that and make a decision on whether or not you'd like to continue approving minutes, or if you'd like to move to the system where the chair and the staff verify them, but it's not brought to the body or not.
Any comments about that issue? Just personally, I kind of like the idea of approval because it gives many ideas or many eyes a chance to look at the minutes before they go out to the public. And sometimes things get put in there that may not have been exactly what happened, or even though with AI and all of the other great stuff. So I personally like the idea of approving the minutes before they go out to the public, but open to any comments. Okay, hearing none, I think we'll just continue the way we've been doing and add them to the consent calendar.
I just had a quick question. Are we talking about approval by the chair and the vice chair or by the whole board, the whole commission?
The whole commission. It's part of their consent calendar that the commission approves each meeting. Any
Question?
comments? Yes.
I guess I'm curious about the process for the minutes. If we weren't to approve the minutes ahead of the meeting or at the start of each meeting, will there be an opportunity to review the last meeting minutes at all? I guess, how does that operate?
Yeah, so if you chose not to approve them as part of your meeting, they are still available to you at any time to go look at online. So they are posted as soon as they're approved on our website, and anyone can go look at them at any point. So you could always review them. Yeah.
I think was the question though, if they have, let's say the minutes from this meeting will not be available until just before, like 7 days before our next meeting. Is that what I'm hearing? If we have to go through the approval process?
So that's generally how it works. When it goes through the approval process, you'd get those minutes 7 days ahead of your next meeting, which means for this commission, that's 3 months before they're out there. Now, good practice would be put the draft unapproved minutes online.
That's what I was just
And
gonna
that's
say.
what we generally would do.
Yeah, the draft minutes go after this meeting within a couple of weeks, probably less than that. Things, I gotta think about my schedule things. It might be 2 weeks before they get up onto the draft minutes will be up on the website with the meeting on it there.
Mhm.
On the TSC, it'll be on for the meeting, where the meeting on the city calendar.
Yeah, they
page.
go,
And then this, the Traffic Safety Commission meetings, and then for this meeting tonight, where the agenda was, there'll be a column for the minutes, and it'll be the draft minutes that will be up there.
it's through the drop-down menu at the top that says government, and you click on that and it says agendas and minutes, and you click right there and it'll pop you right in.
I should clarify, I do get the minutes as from Rachel's
Yeah.
office. It's, you see, well,
Usually the next day we
Usually we
get
get, usually
pretty
the
quick.
next day or two is usually what that is. So it's a matter of, once they get that to me, then I need a couple of days to review those. As you mentioned, we don't just take the AI version and put it out there without having looked at it and proofing against.
You send out the agenda, it's available as a link in the email about the meeting. So we have opportunity to read it before this meeting as well. So you don't have to wait till the meeting to see the meetings, the minutes from the
Correct.
last meeting.
I think the question was related to the minutes, like the minutes for this meeting, or will be
Right.
available shortly. You won't have to wait till the
Right.
May meeting in order to see the draft minutes for
You,
this
you
meeting.
send a copy of that, a link to that when you send out your general meeting information, notice, right?
Yeah.
To remind us that there's a meeting coming up. There's links to all of that.
Yeah.
So we have an opportunity ahead of time
Yes,
to read them.
yes.
I'm just wondering if there's some kind of middle ground we can come to as like, so you draft the meeting minutes pretty quickly, right? For public, would they be able to be emailed to us prior to public view? And in that way we can approve them before they're out to the public? That way we don't have to review them at the meeting every single time, and we don't waste our time at the meeting.
So the only thing I'm avoiding is serial meeting violations, but I do see one path forward for this. And what we could do is, once I've created them and sent them to Brett and he's done more updates, Brett could send them all to all of you, and you can give feedback to him if you see errors. And then at that point, the chair would get the final copy with all of your requests for changes. And then he would read through and then do a final, he'd sign off and Brett would sign off, and that would be finalized. So that'd be a middle ground if you don't want to have to wait till your meeting. I actually don't think that would be a terrible idea. Send it out. You guys, if you have any feedback, send it back to Brett. He'll make the changes, and then Mr. Coleman would make the final yes, this is good.
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea. I'd like to make the motion that we do it that way if possible. That way we're not wasting precious time, discussion time during the meetings.
The only challenge that could arise with that is if two of you thought something different happened at the meeting. Now, with action-based minutes, it should be we're not going into detail. We're really keeping it very broad categories. Discussed, traffic calming. Here's the main points, and that's all we really capture in minutes, because that's best practice for writing minutes. But it could happen. So just be aware of that.
I heard a motion. Do we have a second?
I would also say that if for some reason over the email, if multiple or possibly even a single person disagreed with the minutes, then maybe in that case, we push it forward to our next meeting to discuss with one another. Otherwise, I would second that motion as well.
I'm going to ask a question to clarify the motion that we're looking at there. So just to kind of what I had was that the motion was for staff to provide the draft minutes to the Traffic Safety Commission members for comment. Then those comments would be consolidated by the staff liaison, then sent to the chair for the final approval. That's what we have? Okay.
And let's put a time limit on getting those getting responses. So maybe within 1 week of that, then you would then send it on to the chair.
That's what I was just going to say, then provide a 1 week for scenario for comments that would come back. Then distribution to the chair for approval. And then we move forward from there.
And just a matter of business, minutes can be signed digitally. So if you're comfortable with that, they can just send it to you as a digital signature and then it's done.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Is that the right procedure? Thank you. Okay. Then do we need to restate the motion again, or is everybody clear what the motion is?
So you'd restate the motion again, and you can always ask staff to state it for you if you didn't capture the details.
Thank you, Brett. Would you state the motion again, please?
Yeah, so again, the motion is for the staff to provide the draft minutes to the Traffic Safety Commission for review and comment, with 1 week to provide comments back to staff, staff to consolidate the comments and provide those to the chair for approval.
Okay, let's vote then. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, thank you. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. I think that's a great solution. Okay. Commissioner comments. Toby, start with you.
Is it the commission's job to go through these active issue logs and like discuss potential solutions, or are we only doing the work plan?
I would say that the active issues log is there for your information. And then if there's topics or things that you're seeing and there are trends you're seeing or things, then that could be something to present back in accordance with kind of with the work plan of, is there something to kind of make recommendations and modifications to something that exists, or to create something new that would serve as a guideline or a policy for that.
Great. Wait.
Wiley, yeah, thank you. Just as this meeting, well, I guess first of all, thank you all for being here. Staff, thank you all for putting this together and being so informative during this meeting. Truly appreciate it. Thank you. I did have a thought during this meeting that I didn't share when the question was initially asked, so I'm just gonna kind of say it now. Brett, when you asked about what our social media team can kind of information they can be putting out there, the activity log, that's gaining public feedback, correct?
Not in great detail. It is available with our agendas, but that's where it lives currently as far as
Okay.
for the public access to that.
I guess I missed how that information is collected.
Yeah, so the information that's in the active issues log gets collected that comes, the primary on our Traffic Safety Commission webpage. There's a traffic safety email that goes to myself and the city engineer.
Mm.
Then from there, that gets put into, it's the evaluation goes in, is it a true traffic safety issue that needs to be in the log or is it something else? And then
Okay.
we'll address that as it is. They also come in through the Click Fix. There's also a portal within the website where just general public comments can come in. It comes in that way. They'll get directed and ultimately that gets to myself and the city engineer as well. And then there are just direct phone calls and emails to me that I get as well, potentially the city engineer as well. And even other staff sometimes get something and then it gets forwarded to me.
Thank you for clarifying that piece. I was just going to say I wasn't aware of those opportunities for public to provide that feedback, and maybe we can figure out a way that we can advertise those options for public feedback, was my thought.
Thank you. And I believe they're also being shared with the city council now. The
I didn't catch that.
active issues list is being shared with
It
city
is
council.
not being shared actively with the city council at this time. That's something I can ask the city manager to talk with the.
Yeah, I thought there was some
about it.
discussion about that.
Yeah,
That was
so I
going to
have-
happen.
Yeah, I had provided the city manager kind of with the update, kind of all the work that had gone in and where we were at, kind of that summary that I had with I think it was the last meeting or the previous meeting. That all went to the city manager with the intent for that to go forward. I don't have control over it once I send it to the city manager.
Guess I would suggest that you approach that
Yeah.
again.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I will remind and ask that question again.
Thank you.
A little more on that. There is an opportunity at every city council meeting for items from committees to come. So if you ask your council liaison, Derek, to bring that to city council, he can always bring that to city council as well.
Andrew. Russell, come on.
So I have a few comments. Just most of them are questions. Like one is, this is the second meeting that no one from city council has attended. I'd like to put that up as a priority with them.
Usually I have the all powerful mic where I can talk no matter what and it throws me off. Yeah, Alan has it tonight and he's not used it now. That's often the case, is that because city councilors have several committees and commissions and other things they have to attend, they can't always make it to these meetings. They will often. Councillor Carmen I could tell you more about his job later, but he has a job that will pull him out suddenly, and he has very good reason not to be here tonight, I'll tell you. But it's kind of a common thing that they will show up sometimes and sometimes they won't. But you may always reach out to them about the meeting, and I will tell you that most of them will follow up and watch the videos later if they can't be at the meeting. So.
The other one is I've noticed that there's a lot of do not park here around George Fox University. Is that a city permitted program that's going on?
I'm not sure I'm aware of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Know about this?
Okay.
I hear everything from my office. It's great. And I happen to live in that area. The signs you've seen there going up on the side of like Villa Road and around there, is that what you're talking about? So you were noticing earlier that there's a lot of areas where the yellow painted curbs have not been repainted. And some of those are our responsibility, some are ODOT. What our public works staff has determined is that it's actually more cost effective to place signs. So a lot of the signs you're seeing going up are areas where parking was never allowed, but the yellow paint had faded, and now they're replacing it with signs telling people that that is not a parking area.
I just also just in front of people's homes, it just says do not park here, but it's not going to be a yellow zone.
So those often, so I used to work at George Fox too, so I heard all those complaints too. Those often are members of the community are just throwing up their own signs. Technically, they can't do that. It's a city street. They can't control who parks there in front of their home. But that's something that does happen a lot in the neighborhoods there.
Yeah, so that's kind of where, because the do not park sign, so that makes sense now to me that there's people doing that. That's something that would be probably fall into I'm not even sure how to address that. Probably code compliance would be that piece for that concern. So I can make a note to that, to have them take a look at those.
I want to be sensitive because it will just fill up because George Fox has more cars than they have parking spaces. So it's something that needs to get worked out, but just kind of was wondering if that was a city approved program or what was that about?
Not
all
that
look
I'm
similar.
aware of.
From a communication standpoint, I will let you know that from the administrative offices, we do reach out to George Fox and ask them to remind their students about parking early on at the beginning of the school years, because it usually gets really bad the first couple of weeks of a semester and then it improves dramatically. So we try and ask them to use their channels to remind them about parking and to be respectful. The major issue we see is when there's like illegal parking. So you'll see students in front of fire hydrants and mailboxes and halfway out into the street and things like that. So they do address that. Their security officers go around, put warnings up, we put warnings up, and we try and get it moved quickly. So you see the conditions improve pretty dramatically, but it can be a major issue. Yeah.
And my final question has to do with, Brett, whether you're aware of any kind of study that's being done to handle the increased traffic from the new development off of Mountain View. Because there's none of those roads are made to handle the cars for 300 homes.
So you're talking about the Mountain View Villa and they're north of that. So there was a traffic study done for the Springbrook Master Plan area as a whole. Then that project, and that was done some time ago. And then for this project, they did a follow-up traffic study to say that everything is either in compliance with that previous master plan or adjustments to be looked at. And so those roads, Mountain View Drive is actually a minor arterial roadway as its designation, and Villa is a major collector. Those designations were all done during that master planning process. And the traffic studies that have been done with that project and with future ones are all required to kind of keep that the development stays within those original densities and guidelines and things there. So they were designed for that, expected for that full build out of all of that vacant land that you see north of Mountain View Drive, through that from basically Center Street where Colina there is, all the way to Crestview Drive where it goes to the city limit lines over by the Oxburg Estates all the way to the east.
Yeah, I mean.
So we will see increased traffic from what we have currently.
Yes. Oh, yes. Of course, if you notice that ADEC is already parking outside of their parking lots, which they had never used to allow any parking on Aspen Way or any of the, now there's parking. People park there, so they're full. And I just know, I mean, I'm old enough now, I've lived in various neighborhoods where it used to be semi-rural and then it becomes suburban, and single lane roads do not handle it. And it's going to be, 300 homes is 600 cars. 300 cars equals 1 mile. So you have 1 mile between Villa and 99. And that means that you could have complete gridlock there every morning, every evening. There's nowhere for the cars to go. And so I just don't see how they could possibly plan without a northern route that bypasses Mountain View and go and hits somewhere else.
You brought a good point. What I was referring to with Mountain View Drive was the designation. Currently, it's just the 2-lane roads there. As development occurs on the north side of Mountain View, that will get widened like what it is, like what was done there east of west of.
Why don't they widen it now?
It happens with the development from the land use.
They're going to put a sidewalk in and everything, and they're going to have to tear it all out. It just doesn't make any sense.
When the development occurs to the north, that's when
it costs so much money to do that.
That's the process with their land development process and the land use laws associated with that. When that widening goes in, the city could, if it had the money and resources, could go in and put that in now. That's just doesn't exist.
But they're
to do
not,
that.
you know, well, we look, what's the story with the bypass? They didn't spend the millions, now they're into billions. Right? They could have had it done already for a tenth of the price. And then we have, you know, look at Tualatin and Sherwood, where that took so many years to finally get, you know, four lanes all the way across. And that has relieved all the traffic, but it took years and years and years to get to that point. We don't want to do that here. We want to prepare the road for what the maximum capacity is going to be for that development, not piece by piece. It costs too much money to do that. So I don't know, maybe we need to have a hearing about it because it's definitely going to impact that
Sounds like-
area.
Sounds like Rachel has some additional feedback.
I can definitely give you some information on this. Basically, what it comes down to is money. The city has very, very limited funds for road work every year, and those are paid for by the transportation utility fee. Now, those funds and the capital improvement funds that we use for things like one of the biggest projects coming up is a repair of River Street. They go quickly. Now, if we increase those fees, and you can go to Rate Review Commission tomorrow night and tell them you think they should, then we'll have more money to do this. Now, some of these roads are paid for as the developments go in. The city can get the developers to help pay for them. And that's why it happens as the developments go in, because we're able to say, well, you're impacting this road, you're going to have to help pay for it. And then they can do that work. But honestly, we have such limited funds right now. We can repair about 3 miles of road every year, 3 to 4. We have 90 miles of road in the city, and we can only repair that much. And that's not
Well,
even building new.
I understand that. That's why this has to be part of the fees to develop in the first place.
Yeah.
They have
So-
to provide, we need to do that. I mean, this is going to be a big test case for this. The city has to demand that roads be sized, feeding in and out of these developments
Mhm.
in order to get approval for the development at all.
Yep.
And this thing where they get away with, you know, because they're getting hundreds of millions of dollars out of this development,
Mhm.
while the city says, I don't have enough money to even take care of the road.
Yep.
This doesn't make sense. And so.
Yeah, I mean, I
it's a-
highly recommend you go to the Rate Review Committee meeting and give them your feedback about thinking that the
I mean,
transportation
traffic's
fee
gonna
should be
get
higher.
rerouted, it's gonna hit College, College is gonna
Oh, yeah.
get jammed up. I mean,
Yeah.
all these side roads are gonna have to be, have extra traffic on them because there just is not enough capacity
Mhm.
in those areas to handle what's going on. And then you're gonna have increased accidents. You're gonna have, you know, people trying to come out side roads like Laurel and Villa, right? They're trying to come out of there, they can't get out now.
Mhm.
So this just impacts the city so much when up front, the plan should be for what it's going to be at the end. And that is what the developer has to put in at first.
Yep. So that transportation plan that Brett mentioned earlier is a big part of this as well. So Villa and Mountain View have been built for larger than what is currently there so that they can handle some extra load. Now it is, yep, you may not feel it's enough, but they have been built according to engineering standards. One of the really frustrating things is we are really restricted by ODOT requirements and standards
Yeah.
that we have to hold to too.
Brett, maybe that can be a discussion item, agenda item to talk a little bit about current plan for dealing with development and how system development charges and those kind of things are being charged and utilized to provide for expansion of those kind of issues.
Those are things that are outside of necessarily the day-to-day of those things are not part of this commission. But as far as we're making recommendations on some policies and things that could feed into the system development charges that go into how those rates are set, that'll come out of I would expect that to come out of the transportation system plan update as well. And as Rachel said, providing comments to the rate review committee for the rates that are charged to ratepayers for users of the systems, but then also from the system development charges when that process moves forward as well, which is happening soon, I believe, in process for the system development charges.
So that's part
That
of.
update is happening
part of rate
soon as
review.
well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hunter.
I don't have any further comments, but thank you.
Natasha?
I'm all set. Thanks.
I can't read it. Steve, thank you, Steve.
I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
James?
The only thing I have to add is what was said earlier. Thank you very much for spending your evenings with us. It's really appreciated. Great work.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank everyone of the commissioners. Again, we're a new commission, and I appreciate everybody volunteering to be part of this commission and participating. I mean, that's a big part of it. You could sit back and attend meetings, but I really appreciate the participation. That's very helpful. Appreciate staff. Again, Brett, the work that you've done in your area as far as the citizens' concerns is greatly appreciated. Again, there's been years of lack of work in that area. What you're doing is greatly appreciated. So thank you. So with that, I guess we'll adjourn the meeting, and the next meeting is scheduled for May 11th here at this location at 6 p.m. And thank you for everybody participating.